What's going on, guys? Matt here. So today we're looking at the Cold Steel Mini Recon 1. Real quick, I want to remind you to like and subscribe. Got a bunch of knife reviews coming out. Again, I wish I could be a little bit more consistent with my posting. I am actually in graduate school right now getting an MBA. And I'm also getting ready to publish my book, which I might post something about on the channel in case anyone is interested. But yeah, so a lot going on in the Rose household kind of currently. But hopefully I'll be able to be a little bit more consistent with my knife reviews, with my posting once my book comes out, which will be on April 18th. So that's coming up. I'm excited about that. But yeah, so let's get back to the knife. So we're talking about the Cold Steel Mini Recon 1. Now, this knife has a really interesting history, and we'll talk about that here in a second. You know, we'll talk about specs. We'll talk about what I like, what I don't like, something unique. But first, let's do some size comparisons real quick. Then we'll talk about the history a little bit, and then we'll get into all that stuff. So let's compare it to pretty close comparison, I'd say. The full size Cold Steel Recon 1. So this is the mini. This is the full size, and they actually make a micro, which is teeny. It has like a 2-inch, less than a 2-inch blade. You can see there's a good bit of difference between these two blades. This is quite a large knife. 4-inch blade, really full handle. This has a 3-inch blade, and you can just really tell the difference. As you can also tell, these handle materials look a little bit different. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So size comparison on that. Let's compare it to something really similar. Another thing that used to be in the Cold Steel lineup, the Cold Steel Con. Very similar in size, classic 3-inch blade, just handle to blade ratio, very similar on that one. So, let's see, what else do we got on table? This I just got in the mail as well. This is the Ontario Carter Prime. These are like $42 on Amazon, titanium handle, D2 steel. Really just a fantastic deal on these. What is that, Helvetica or Colibri? Gosh, is that font gaudy. We'll review this one eventually, but really good review on, or really good deal on these. About a 3.5-inch blade on this guy. And let's do full size or a fixed blade. Here we go. You got Mora. Mora right here. Please, sir, can I have some more? Yeah, I've made that joke multiple times. People hate it. This is one of their carbon versions. I think this is called the, gosh, what is this called? Not the heavy duty. The robust, more robust. And as you can see, I did a vinegar patina on there just to prevent some rust. This thing's awesome. They're less than $20. Fantastic knife, just really fantastic knife. So about a 3.5-inch blade on that guy too. So, all right. So let's talk about the history real quick. So as many of you know, Cold Steel has had the Cold Steel Mini Recon 1 before. It was made very similarly to the Cold Steel Recon 1 in the past. At first, they were made of AUS 8 with the G10 scales. And they had a mini, they had the regular, and they had the XL, which had about 5.5-inch blade on it. Eventually, they transitioned to XHP, and I believe the Mini Recon 1 was made in CTS XHP for a little while, and eventually Cold Steel discontinued it. I'm really not sure why. Well, I think Cold Steel likes their exclusives. That's probably why, especially I think Lynn Thompson really did. But eventually they discontinued it, and they also discontinued the XL, and the mainline Recon 1 was the only one left. When that happened, these became very desirable, the old versions of these, which had like, a Teflon coating and G10 handles. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name. When GSM, sorry, it's been a long day. When GSM bought out Cold Steel, they took some polls. They said, what do you guys want to see back in the lineup? And one was the Talwar, and one was the Cold Steel Mini Recon 1, and they brought the Mini Recon 1 back. So that's where we're at kind of with the Mini Recon 1. They revamped it, so it is not the same knife. It's not just a smaller version of this. It's actually a decent amount different, as you can see with the finishing. So let's talk specs real quick. So we're looking at a 3-inch blade on this knife that is 0.13 inches thick. Pretty standard for Cold Steel. That is made of AUS 10A, right? There's the GSM Cold Steel logo. AUS 10A, unlike its bigger counterparts, which are now made of S35VN. The handle length is 4.25 inches. This is a GRN handle, not a G10 handle. It's textured and to kind of look like G10. When you hold it, you can tell it's not G10. but I can't say it feels great in the hand. And unlike the main Recon one and it's also its predecessor, this has partial liners and they are skeletonized. I'm not sure. Yeah, you guys should be able to see those. Yep, right in there. So partial liners and FRN or GRN rather on this. This thing weighs 3.1 ounces. So perfect weight, guys, right? Blade to weight ratio, that's right on. These vary a lot in price. They're going on Amazon for, between 40 and 50 bucks. Sometimes you see them all the way up to 70. So let's just say, 50, 60 bucks to kind of give you kind of an estimate. That's snapshot in time, 2023. It is March. Okay, let's get into what I like about this. So it's a Recon 1, right? So I love the original Recon 1. It's one of my favorite tactical blades. Just great value on a knife, around $100 for what you get. I think it's fantastic. So a lot of those things are echoed in this. The blade designs are essentially the same. You have a clip, you have a spear point, and you have a tanto point. And they look, they have the same profiles, just shrunk down. So I think that's fantastic. Really, the finger grooves, kind of the overall design of the handle, even though it's a different material, feels really similar. Again, it's like a shrunk down Recon 1. So a lot of the positives that come with owning a Cold Steel Recon 1 are echoed in this mini Recon 1. Another thing I like is it has the triad lock. You guys know I like a triad lock. And coupled with that, and I do want to mention this, this is the smoothest triad lock I have ever owned. Boy, is this thing smooth. I mean, it's even smoother than these newer Recon ones, which they've done a really good job of tightening up the tolerances on these, just smoothing out everything. But this thing just, man, it drops. This is the smoothest cold steel knife I think I've ever owned. It's fantastic. So a lot of times with that triad, because of how strong that spring is, it's a little bit of a stiff opening. You don't enjoy opening as much. Lately, Cold Steel's just been doing a fantastic job, and this is outstanding. Guys, manufacturers, if any are listening, this is how you do a backlock. A lot of manufacturers, I think, they avoid backlocks because you don't have the smoothness that you have with like a frame lock like this. You have ball bearings and it's very, very smooth. This isn't quite as smooth, but it's very, very smooth. So very well done, Cold Steel and other manufacturers. If you want to do a backlock, you want to make it smooth, look at what Cold Steel is doing on this blade. Another thing I love is the price for materials, guys. Let's say you get this for around 50 bucks. 50 bucks for AUS 10A. Nice stonewashing. We'll get into that in a second. Great blade. AUS 10 is just a great steel for how much it usually goes for, especially in Cold Steel knives. With, nicely machined GRN, feels solid with those partial liners, skeletonized, to reduce the weight. It's just fantastic. This isn't a heavy, chunky knife. This is 3.1 ounces for a 3-inch blade, and I talk about kind of that's the ratio I want to see, right? Blade length to ounce ratio. This is perfect, right in the ballpark. So you just feel like a lot of effort went into designing this blade and also making it inexpensive while not cutting any corners, really. So outstanding job, Cold Steel, on that. I just think price for materials is great. And along with what I just mentioned, the stonewashing that Cold Steel does, I just think is great. I've seen stonewashing look cheap. They just never do that. They do it on their Spartan, which I should have brought out. I still have an outstanding knife. And it just looks great. Looks fantastic. Keep rust away a bit too, which is awesome. Okay, fit and finish, and I kind of touched on that with the pricing for materials. But yeah, fit and finish is just great. There's no sharp corners. It's just really good. I don't know what else to say. There's nothing on it that I can say, oh yeah, but they cheaped out here. No. Even, the liners, if they said, well, we're going to add liners because it's not, as strong of a material like G10 is, because there's not as much, rigidity in it. No, they skeletonized them, so there's just a lot of thought into the fit and finish and into putting this knife together. So I think that's awesome. Another thing, and it's the last thing, and this echoes from the original Recon, is the variety. Guys, there's just you have so many options, right? Especially now that they've brought the mini, you have the micros, you have, 3 different blade styles. You want to spend some extra money, get the full size. You want a bigger knife with, higher end steel, S35. You spend about double. Is it worth it? Yeah, probably. But also, if you don't use your knives that much, guys, OS 10A is gonna hold an edge fantastically. So, if you like the smaller blade, and it's gonna be able to kind of stick in your hand all right, that is another thing too, is even though this has a smaller handle, let me get this. My pinky just has enough room, right? So I can hold this pretty comfortably, and it's quite comfortable in the hand. I don't love finger grooves on knives, but for some reason, Cold Steel's just indexed really well with me. Whoever designs their knives probably has big chunky hands like I do. But yeah, there's a lot of variety. You have the Tonto, you have the spear point, you have the clip point. I love this clip point. I love a clip point Bowie style knife. And the tip on this thing isn't terribly thin like it is on the Voyager. The Voyager clip point is very, 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 very thin, and it always made me nervous using it, in hard use. So what don't I like? Well, there's only one thing, and it's really just a design issue. And I've talked about this with other Cold Steels, and again, I should have brought the Spartan out. Well, no, Spartan doesn't have it, but the 8010 has it. This jimping, I don't know why they do this. That doesn't pass for anything, right? Your hand just slides along that. It doesn't really add any texturing, to be honest. If that lock bar was milled out a bit where those those divots were, yeah, fantastic. I think it would work great. Would it look strange? Maybe. I've seen people say, well, that would make the lock bar less strong. I mean, I guess it's still going to be really strong, guys. Like, I don't know how much strength you're giving up by milling that out, what, a 0.5 millimeter a piece. So yeah, that's just the only thing I don't like. And you could maybe classify that as a don't mind, because it's not anything that's negatively affecting the knife. It's more of just something aesthetically I don't understand why they do. Even this FRN, even though it's not as grippy as the G10, it's still plenty grippy. And another thing, like, how much grip do you need? Your hand's also locked in by these finger grooves. If it's a tactical blade for you and you're worried about your hand slipping out, if you ever have to use it, deploy it in that way, I don't think you're gonna have to worry about it. It's plenty grippy. Yeah, I don't understand why they do that. If someone from Cold Steel could please explain that to me, that would be fantastic. I think many of us would like to know. So that's really the only thing I don't like. Maybe you could classify that as something I don't mind. I don't know. You guys decide. So what's unique? I just love this blade, guys. I think it's outstanding. And I kind of mentioned this in the Cold Steel Con review. This reminds me of old school Cold Steel. Old Steel Cold Steel is what I kept saying in that review, right? Because it's like a $50 knife, right? It's pretty inexpensive. You're getting great materials, not super high-end, but really solid materials. Really fantastic fit and finish. Just a good design, a strong, tough knife for around $50. And that's kind of what I loved about Cold Steel growing up, was they made good blades. They weren't the highest material, like they didn't have the most premium materials. Some of their blades were really nice, but you had the options of these mid-level inexpensive knives that really were just tough, durable, and would probably last you a lifetime, right? And so I just love this because this reminds me of old style Cold Steel. And I want to mention this because I've mentioned, some of the stuff that GSM has done at Cold Steel I haven't loved so much. And a lot of that is the mass marketing stuff, seeing those cheap 3CR13 blades in Walmart, right? But where I've kind of come to since is, so long as they keep doing stuff like this, so long as they keep bringing back old blades or making new blades that we like, making other blades, like some of the stuff that GSM has done has been awesome. Bringing out, all their big Bowie blades in 3V. Are you kidding me? Like, the old style Cold Steel, they didn't do that kind of stuff. They had them in nicer steels, but they didn't have them in 3V. So long as Cold Steel still does stuff like this and, that other stuff, keep going. You can do your cheap stuff, fine, whatever. It doesn't bother me, so long as they still make their nice stuff. So I love this because it reminds me of, a Cold Steel I would buy when I was 16. And I just think it's fantastic. Obviously, it's an absolute recommend, guys. Definitely pick one of these up, especially in the, $40 to $50 price point. Pick up a couple in your favorite blade styles. It's just an outstanding knife, and it's a definite recommend. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. We will see you in the next video. Peace. Peace.